Come on up here. Jake, do you need to stay there? No. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Make Art. Tonight we are painting this wonderful, gorgeous monarch butterfly. We have some great colors. We're going to work on color changes, so that is super exciting. And we're going to introduce everybody because we like to keep it casual here and we like to talk to people, and that way you can talk to us or whatever. So we have Misty here who's painting with us. Chad is back painting. Jake is doing camera work. Jake's doing camera.
I wanted my time to shine.
He was like so ready. He was like, that's me. Sorry, Jake. Sorry.
Oh, it wasn't me.
Okay, this is Chad. This is Chad. He's painting with us again. Jake is doing camera. I'm Sarah Cray. Casey's doing camera stuff. And Suzanne is painting with us today for the first time, so that's exciting.
Susan? Or Suzanne?
Some people might call her Susan. Her name is Suzanne. There's been some confusion. But we figured it out. Okay. So, let's start with our outline.
You gotta do the oath.
Oh, okay. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the oath after we trace an outline, because there's a lot of time between the tracing and the oath, and I like to do the oath right before we paint, so you're feeling pumped. So hopefully you printed out your monarch butterfly outline. Now I'm going to show you something here. On the printable, there's like a weird line that comes in. Just make the line go outside of those little dots. My paper moved while I was tracing that for you guys, so sorry about that, but just make that line go out. So this one does take a while to trace. I have not finished tracing mine yet, so I'm gonna, is anybody done tracing theirs yet?
I'm close.
Chad?
Almost. Yeah.
Almost? Okay, let me know when you're done and I'll snag some graphite paper. So
I can pass it off, and then when he's done, I'll just finish.
So for this graphite paper, you want to make sure that you put the dark side down. And just so you know, it's super reusable. So there's a bunch of lines all over it. You can see that I use it for a ton of projects. So you really only need one sheet of graphite paper for I feel like for the rest of your life, but I don't want to commit to that. So for a long time. So you put your graphite paper underneath, and then you just follow the lines here. So, and this,
I think I'm done if you want mine.
oh, perfect. Now for graphite paper, when you do this, sometimes you might miss a line or two. Don't stress if while you're painting and you figure that out. It's not a big deal. This is just a guide. And I do want to say too that if you are really serious about being an artist and really improving your skills, then I encourage you to still practice drawing. I just don't want people to not paint because they feel like they can't draw the subject out. So I'm just trying to help you guys out, and it just makes it a little bit easier. But if you're really interested in being an artist, then make sure you practice those skills.
Sir, can you just, so we have a question about, for those that got the kits, the
Yeah.
masking fluid and the bleed proof, can you just let them know?
Yeah, okay, so we have some questions on the kits, or if you bought the supplies, you might need clarification. So we have two different things here going on today. We have the bleed proof white, which is our white paint that we use for detail work, and this is masking fluid. And masking fluid is pretty much gonna work like masking tape. So it's liquid, so you put it down wherever you wanna keep the paper clean and white. And then when it dries, you can paint over it. And then when your painting is dry, you can rub off the masking fluid and the paper underneath is white. So when we first start out, our very first thing we're gonna do on this butterfly is use the masking fluid on these dots here that are all around the bottom and a little bit on the body. And then the bleed proof white we do for detail work at the very end. So just so you guys know what's going on with that. I'm almost done drawing mine out here. Just have a couple more dots to go. Now, You might be wondering why use the bleed-proof white, the masking fluid if we can just use bleed-proof white at the end, which you can. But the masking fluid, so with white, depending on how much you use, you can still get white on a paper, but it's so much easier just to keep the white of the paper that natural instead of having to do another layer on top of it. So especially with watercolor, this is a really fun thing. And you can do this with so many things. Like you can just do a pattern, or I've done it with lettering. So I would write a word in masking fluid, let that dry, and then do a watercolor wash over it, and then rub off the word, and so it stays like that. So it's a really fun thing to play with. It's a strong tool in watercolor, so don't be afraid of it. Okay. Okay, I'm done with mine. Oh, no, I'm not. I missed my dots. Here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. And we'll just give you guys a few more minutes because I know that this one is kind of intense to trace. But some exciting news. We're starting construction on a storefront, and we're hoping to have that open in a couple of months. Mid-May is our goal, but that's really exciting. I'll definitely share progress with you guys along as we go so you can see it as it's built and all of these things, so that's really exciting. Okay. And then if you got some graphite on your paper, you can use these rubber erasers to just get that off. These are the best erasers. Do you want to try?
Yeah.
Okay. I have another one here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I just have a couple of little.
Yeah, if you just have spots where your finger were pressing down or something, you can rub that off.
Bada boom, bada bing.
Jody Richard says congratulations.
Jody, thank you. Thank you.
Storefront.
Storefront's coming.
Exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be so cool. It's going to be really great. I'm so excited. And then I'm so lame, but I illustrated a book. It's called Motherhood, and it comes out today, and I forgot to bring a copy, but it's released today. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Target or other places, I'm assuming. And so I have a book signing this weekend in Sacramento where I'm going to do signed books of that sort. So that's really cool.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Okay. Are you guys ready? Are you still tracing? Let's see
I'm ready.
what people say.
Hey, Scoot. That way, Misty, a little bit.
Okay.
A little more in front.
Pretend you like Chad.
I don't have to be in frame, it's fine.
She's like, I get
And
plenty
if you
of
can
that.
scoot that way a little bit.
Okay.
you can
Is that enough?
too. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, are these yours?
You guys are just like
These
barely
are
in
mine.
there left.
These are
Okay.
mine.
That's yours.
Another thing about the masking fluid. Where am I looking?
This one.
This one. Another thing about the masking fluid, it's basically like glue. So do not use your nice paintbrushes in the masking fluid. I have some old paintbrushes here that I specifically use for my masking fluid work. I mean, you can use your paintbrushes, you just have to clean them very well after and make sure you get all of that stuff off because the next day it's gonna harden because it's basically glue.
If they don't want to use their nice ones and they don't have old ones, what would you suggest?
If you don't have any other paintbrushes besides the nice ones that you bought from us, then I would just use the end because we're just doing dots today. So you can just put the tail end of your paintbrush in and do dots that way. Okay?
Smart thinking. Real
Yes.
Smart thinking.
Any kind of dot kind of thing. So I'm just gonna pass.
Thank you.
I'm gonna use this one because that's the worst one.
Oh, okay.
Here. Okay, so what you do is you just take your masking fluid, you guys can share that one over here, and then all these little dots that we have on the bottom of our butterfly, and then the 4 that are on the body of the butterfly right here, those ones get masking fluid. So you just kind of dab it, and it's gonna be super liquidy, and you just kind of dot it where you want it to go. Now it doesn't have to be a super thick layer, like even a very thin layer will still do the job. No, you're fine.
Sarah,
Yes.
Jeremy Richards says, on your Instagram, there's a picture of a baby in a womb. Is that picture in the book?
So Jody asked, I have an Etsy shop where I sell watercolor prints, and one of them is a baby in a womb that I actually made for a nurse. She was an OB nurse. And that painting is not in the book, but I do have one of a baby being held. That's also on my Etsy shop. It's like 2 arms holding the baby. But the womb one is not in there. Probably like half of the paintings that are on my that were on my Instagram in the last probably year are in the book, but the womb one is separate. And that's because I painted that one before I did the book. So that one is mine. So you're just gonna go along and do the dots here. And this stuff lasts a very long time. You don't, like I've had the same thing for years. And you can see, this is it as it dries. It just kind of clumps up into glue. Oh, sorry. This is glue right here. It just kind of like clumps up as it dries.
Yeah, I got you back.
I appreciate it.
What?
Don't
What's
mind
up?
me.
What's up, guys?
I'm just filling in the wrong dots.
Missy's making a white butterfly today.
It's an albino.
Were you feeling, what part of were you filling in?
These ones. It's fine.
That's okay, that's okay.
When it dries,
Yeah, you gotta have
Just
your
peel it
flow,
off.
man.
It'll be fine.
The nice thing is you just peel it off and then paint on top of it if you do that.
That's true.
I am going to do a couple at the very top of the wing, but those are going to be the really small ones that are at the top, not the larger ones.
Just about to look at yours and see which
She's got
one.
excited, man. She's stoked.
She's
That's
just
this
excited to be
butterfly.
here.
I get it. I mean, this is a really cool thing. Okay, so I got my dots.
You want to point out the ones you're not supposed to?
Okay, so this area right here, try and leave, that. This is going to be yellow here. So if you want to see, and this is not a strict thing, just so you know. If you do mask some of them, that's totally fine. If you don't, that's fine too. We'll just make them yellow. This is not a strict thing here. We like to, you know, it's a little more relaxed. It's a little more keep it fast and loose.
You can still be part of the club.
You can still be part of the club no matter what dots you mask or don't mask.
Good to know.
Thanks, guys.
Except for you, Misty, you're out.
Misty, you're out. Okay, so I'm just gonna put my paintbrush in water and just like let that hang out. But like this paintbrush I don't really care about, so I'm not gonna like clean it right now because it's my masking fluid brush, so.
It is kind of hard to see and figure out which ones I'm supposed to fill in, but I think I'm good.
It's because I like to make it hard on you guys. I like to trick you.
You did it on purpose.
Okay, and then we need to let those dry. So what we can do, so a lot of watercolor that I've learned is just trying to figure out what you can do in other areas while we're waiting for stuff to dry. So this part, these masking fluids, is just gonna go over with the black. So until this dries, we can't do any black part. So what we do is we just do the yellow part. Okay, but we gotta do warm-ups first and our oath. Don't worry guys, I did not forget it. Okay, so I'm just gonna set mine aside and let that dry. And I'll wait to do the oath.
You can do it.
No, I don't wanna like,
What about, so now I'm afraid.
don't be
Do I do
afraid.
these ones?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I feel like I need to work slower.
Here, I'll put this on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see from there what dots are white. Mine aren't even probably matched up to this perfectly too, so
I
don't.
like your little ones on the edge that are not dots, they're just little.
Oh, we do that at the end, don't worry.
Okay.
And we use bleed proof white.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, I have little dashes along the edge here, but I just do that with the bleed proof white at the end because they're so thin and fine that it's hard to get that thin fine line with the brush. Well, with this glue brush, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like glue. It's hard. So it's hard to get fine lines. Okay.
Wait, what about these ones on the body? Is that what
Yeah, so there's 4. So there's gonna be eyeballs. Those are the dots at the very top on the head. and then there's 4 behind the eyes, like underneath.
Okay.
But like, yeah, 2 eyes. If you do the eyes, that's not a big deal. We could always rub it off, but. Okay, let's do the oath. Okay? Everybody raise your hand. Yep, yep. And you're gonna say, I promise to have fun tonight.
I promise to have fun tonight.
I promise to not compare myself.
I promise not to compare myself.
And I promise to let things go.
And I promise to let things go.
Thanks. Okay, so while that dries, let's do some warm-ups.
Glad you did that before the oath.
Including the left.
Okay, grab your brush, grab any brush. I usually like to do my larger brush for warm-ups because I just like using larger brushes.
Should I not have put my glue paste in my cup?
It doesn't matter. I put,
okay.
yeah, this water, I mean, it's fine. You can still use this for watercolor. Don't stress about it. And we can
Glued my brush to my paper towel.
I'm just
Don't
gonna
worry
put
about
that in there. Okay, so for our warm-ups, we're gonna do our usual warm-up, which is go from dark to light. So I get some color. I'm gonna use some amber yellow, and I'm just gonna lay it down. So this is mostly pigment that I'm picking up. So my brush is a little wet, but then I kind of like, yeah, exactly, just like that. And then I lay down my color, rinse my brush, go at the end of the color, and go back and forth and let that spread out. The goal here is to get a dark to light value, and we want that full range. Like that. So I have a good dark, I have a medium, and I have a light. And if you need to rinse your brush a couple of times to get that light all the way out to where it's barely there, you can do that. Don't feel like you only rinse your brush once and then you're done. You do it as long as you need to.
Okay, too much there.
No, that's fine. So just rinse your brush. And then starting from this point here, right at the very end, you're gonna brush it out.
Okay.
Just like that.
Okay.
And then I would do it one more time.
Okay.
With a clean brush, because then we can get all that pigment. So you clean your brush because you're rinsing your brush, you're cleaning your brush off and getting all that pigment off, and then you're gonna lay down mostly water. So let's just do that a couple of times to get that feeling. If you wanna, I like to do it in the different colors that I have, sometimes just so I can see.
I don't think so.
No, this one is orange and this is amber yellow. So this has more of a red tint to it.
Okay.
And that's gonna stay more, and when you lay it down, you'll see the color difference here. So this one goes from like a reddish to just like orange, and this one goes to like an orange to like a yellow. Oh, and the colors I'm using, sorry, I should have said. So they're amber yellow, golden brown, orange, and black. Those are our 4 colors that we have going on. And we're gonna mix the amber yellow, the orange, and the golden brown to get our the yellow part and the orange part on our butterfly. Good, yeah. So just do that a couple of times till you feel kind of comfortable, because this is probably the technique that I use absolutely the most in watercolor, which is laying strong color down first and then just using water to spread it out and get a wash from there. Okay.
I saw you do that reverse one time in one of your paintings too. It was like you used it to like push pigment away. I was blown away.
Yeah, so, okay, so sometimes, so what Chad's talking about here is, let's say I put color down, okay? Like that, like when I lift it up or when I push it away.
When you pushed it away.
So when it's still wet, you can just use your brush as a way to push the pigment out. So you can like guide it out and across. So if it's wet enough, you can just move it to where you want it to go. So if I only want my dark to stay in this area, then I just move it over there. Like that. Just like that. So sometimes you're just using the brush as, I don't know, a scoop, a what?
It's Dreamy.
Oh, I thought you were saying, I'm like, what word am I looking for? Yeah, so you can just scoosh it over. Okay, and then the next thing that we're gonna do, because this is a technique that we're gonna be playing with here, is I want you guys to go from amber to orange to golden brown. No. Let's do golden brown to amber to orange. So I'm gonna start with my brown.
Is that this one on my?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start that. So I lay that down, and then like halfway through, I'm gonna introduce the amber. Okay, because we wanna show a change of color. And then I just do pure amber.
This is amber? Yeah, is that the reddish one?
Yeah, the amber is like the reddish one.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna do orange. So it's almost the same thing of what we were doing, except we're just doing it with the different colors. So I want like a darker amber at the end with the golden brown. I mix with the golden brown, and then it goes pure amber. And then we go to orange, and then we just use water to spread that out. So you should have a nice color change here, and that's with 3 different colors that we have going on. So, and you can compare that to the first swatches that we laid down, and you can see the difference in how fun it is to play with introducing different colors within your value change instead of just one. Very nice. Good job. For yours, I would even go even darker, like really just pure, put pure amber in there, and then put pure golden brown in there, and kind of let those mix, because we want it super dark, super strong, that kind of thing. Okay. Very nice. Okay, and then the next thing we're gonna practice, usually we do washes, but we're not gonna do too many of those. Like, it's mainly just like this kind of thing over and over again in those spaces. But another thing that we're gonna wanna practice is our thin lines. So just take your 2 brush if you have your 2. If you don't, you can still use a larger brush. I can do the same thing with a 4. It's just a little bit harder. And then I'll just use black, but I just want you to practice doing some nice thin lines here. And remember, it's all about pressure. So this is a light pressure line, and this is hard pressure. Just like that. So, and this is the wonderful thing about round paintbrushes, is I could do a thin line to a thick line, back to a thin line, just like that. Which is why rounds are like my workhorse brush. This is like the main thing I use. So yeah, I made these thin lines using a 4 right here. I could probably do the same thing with the 10, because all of the round brushes should have a nice point on them. And I'm just doing this to show you guys that you really just need like one round brush, and then you can just play with. So here's my thin line with the 10. But in this kind of space with my butterfly, where I'm doing thin lines in between these pockets of color, I wanted to keep it simple for myself, which is why the 2 is preferred, because it's already a small brush. So I don't have to work as hard to keep that thin line. And yeah, how are you doing? Beautiful. You guys are pro. You're ready to go? Okay, let's go.
I've done this a time or 2.
I've done this before.
Like 3 times.
like 3 times. That's really all you need. Okay. So we're gonna start with filling in our orange space on the right-hand side, because looking at my painting, it looks like my my masking fluid is still wet, so I don't wanna put black on it yet. A way you can test if it's still wet is you could just touch it. I do that sometimes. It might smear a little, but you know, things don't stress me out. But in the places where there's like, where it's bubbled, where it's thick, those are gonna take longer to dry, because
Those are
obviously
like all my places.
there's more liquid. Yeah, you might just, that's fine. You would just do the orange first, pretty much. So I'm going to start with my 4 brush, and what I'm going to do with this, so I like to start with the big guys first. So I'm just going to start with my amber yellow, and just try to be careful if these are wet. Try not to touch them, so move your paper around however you need to at whatever angle, so your hand won't get in them. And I'm just going to start with my amber yellow right at the corner here. I'm going to let that go down. And then I'm going to take my orange and drop in where that ends. And then I'm basically just using water to smear the rest out. Now the goal here is to have the edge of the butterfly light. Now what I did on these paintings is after I put that in, I did just a touch of the golden brown at the bottom and then at the top, because that's where the black is going to meet. And so I want to make it a kind of a smoother transition, so I did a little golden brown there. And then if you need to do another drop of amber at the top, that's fine. I'm going to do a little bit more. So basically we just want like a smooth transition. So here I'm doing what Chad said earlier. I'm moving my paint upwards here. Kind of just moving that pigment around to go where I want it to go. Yep, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Very nice. Okay, and then we just do that same thing. Basically on all 4 of these larger spaces, we're going to be using that same pattern. So just go at whatever pace you feel comfortable. So I start with my amber, and then I just go straight to my orange. I don't really worry about rinsing my brush going between the amber and the orange because they're going to mix on the paper, so I'm okay if they blend a little on my brush. Then I rinse my brush and just use water to smear that out. So I'm going from like a reddish orange to yellow in these spaces. I'm going to do a touch of the golden brown at the bottom. Just like that. Very nice. I would maybe even drop a little more amber yellow in right at the top there, so it's a nice like reddish orange.
Okay.
Unless you don't like that color.
No,
if
I
you
like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say things and I'm like, they probably are doing that on purpose, Sarah. No. Like, leave them alone.
I don't really do anything with the purpose. I just kind of show up.
Me too.
Here I am.
Okay. So I'm just going to keep going around. I'm going to drop a little more amber yellow in here. And then I go straight from my amber to my orange. And the reason why I did 2 different colors here on this part instead of using just orange is because you can see here in my warm-up that if you use just orange, this is the darkest that orange is going to be, and you're going to miss this really beautiful color here. But if we use just this color, then you miss this really pretty yellow that happens at the end, which is why when I'm painting colorful things like this and I really want the color to be the center of everything, I like to introduce multiple variations of a similar color for the transition to be a little bit nicer. Now, usually in these large spaces, like this reminds me of when we do leaves, right? Because they're large areas of color. I like to drop in watercolor textures, but I'm not going to do this with this butterfly because I feel like the wonderful thing about the pockets of color with the butterfly is the soft color change. And when you add in droplets of water, it's going to spread that pigment out, and so you won't have a smooth transition between your colors. It would make it a little bit more blotchy. And so I'm not going to be using that technique in this painting, which is why we didn't do it in warm-ups, because it's not what we're doing today. Even though it's actually one of my favorite things because you can get some really cool stuff, but I think it would kind of, I don't know.
I was gonna say, I'm glad I'm covering this up with black.
Yeah, don't worry about the lines. If you're not staying in it, that is totally fine because we'll just go over it with black. But when we go over it with black, you just want to make sure that you have a nice edge on it because we want those strong straight lines. But you don't have to worry about that yet. And actually, if your thing is dry, I think we'll start with black first on this one because there's two different, the reason why I started with orange first is because my masking fluid was wet. But if it's dry, you can totally start with black first, and then it's basically just filling in the white areas. Both ways work just fine. We'll do both. Okay. So my masking fluid on the bottom is pretty dry. It's going to feel a little bit sticky. That's fine. It's supposed to feel sticky, but just as long as like it's not wet and it's not coming off your fingers. So I'm going to go to my 2, and I'm just going to start putting in the black. And the reason why I'm not starting with the blacks right away on this side is because this color right here, this orange, is still wet. So if black paint touched that, it would bleed onto my pockets of color. We want to avoid that. We want to keep them straight lines. So I like to let that dry, and then I move on to a different area. So I'm going to take my brush and just black, and I'm going to start with doing the smaller lines first, and then I'll go out to the bottom. So I'm going to start here and try really hard to get some good thin lines. So I'm just kind of starting to fill this in. Now on that outline, some of the lines are just a line. Like I think this one here was just a line. And that's because it's just a really thin line. Just start to fill that in here. Okay. And then another thing that I've noticed with watercolor, and especially these paints, is that you think that the black straight out, so with very little water in your brush and just using black straight out, that's going to be the darkest. But I have found that it actually is, it stays darker if you actually start with, and you can do this in your larger areas, if you actually just put water down first and then drop in the black. This color stays more black if you do it that way. And you can even see here that some of my lines are graying already because I was just using the paint. I wasn't using very much water. So when you get to this bottom part, it's sometimes easier just to drop water in and then drop in the black onto the water. And then from there, I just kind of spread it out. And you'll see here that if your paint is thin enough, you'll see where the spots where we put down the masking fluid.
Do you want it to be thin enough?
It doesn't matter if it's thick or thin, because when it dries, you should still be able to tell where the masking fluid is. So don't stress if your paint is a little bit too thick that you can't see the dots underneath, because it will dry. So then I'm gonna just put water down. This is just like mainly water.
Did you switch to a 4?
I did switch back to a 4 for this thicker area, just because it's a bigger brush, so it will cover more area faster. And then I just drop in my black. But you can still use your 2 if you feel more comfortable with that. I just trying to save time. Then I'm going to turn this really quick to do this line. And when I'm doing long, thin lines, I like to move my whole arm instead of my wrist, because my line tends to stay straighter longer. Okay. Yeah, in case you can come look at this too. So you can see here I laid down my black. It's pretty dark, but you can still see the spots where we put in the masking fluid. So when that dries, we are going to rub off those dots, and it should be white underneath. Well, it will be white, but can you see that on there? Maybe if you do it from an angle.
You can see
There you go. Yeah, you can see it in that right-hand corner. Okay, and then I'm just going to go back through and kind of perfect my lines a little bit. So just in some areas, if there's like a spot that is kind of uneven or something, I'm just going to go back over it and kind of even things out.
Oh shoot, I think I filled something in black that was supposed to be colored. But...
That's okay. Yeah, this is a line between, so this area is actually colored right here, but if you did that black, that's fine too. It doesn't. This butterfly is a free butterfly.
It's a forgiving butterfly.
It's a forgiving butterfly that can be whatever you want it to be. Okay. And so now my black is done on that side. So I'm just going to go to my right-hand side if it's dry enough, which mine is pretty, I mean, some areas are still kind of wet. I can see the glare, but it's not puddled on my paper, and it's not super wet on the edges. So if I touch black to it, it probably won't bleed. So I'm going to go back over onto my right-hand side and start filling in the black. Now I did leave these spaces. I'm just going to leave those white, and then I'll go back and color them orange. Now this is starting to bleed just a little bit here. That doesn't bother me. But if that's happening to you and it's stressing you out, then just leave a little bit of a space between your orange paint and your black paint. And then if that happens to you and you want to take that out, so the black is bleeding in, I'm just going to lift that out using my paintbrush. So I just use a clean paintbrush, put water on it, and I'm just lifting out this color here. And then when it dries, I'll go back over it again with orange. What?
Trying to save the black.
I know the black still, I mean, it's working really hard. So I'm just gonna leave that for a second, and then I'll go back to it and clean it off.
This is a super thick chunk of black.
It is. It might not feel right, but it's right.
Okay.
I don't feel right, but it's right.
Here. Yeah, that black, man, wants to go. I'm gonna use some paper towel to pick it up. There we go. Okay.
Where did you move next after that first black section? Just up?
Up to the next black. Ooh, your black section's looking good, Misty.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's nice, even black. That's what I found is really hard. And actually, I do pet portraits a lot, and the hardest thing to paint are black dogs. Because it's watercolor, so it wants to be transparent, but black dogs aren't transparent. So I found that you just have to do a lot of layers of black to get those. Because not only is the dog black, but there's still light and shadow on the dog. So the dog still has highlights and lowlights. So you still have to get that darkest dark and that light.
Sarah.
Yeah, what's up?
So Carol says she can't hear the comments from the other people.
Okay.
So can you repeat what they say just so?
I will repeat what everybody says.
If this is still wet up here, should I just move over instead?
Yeah, so Missy asked, so her orange is still pretty wet. So she asked if she could just move to the other side, and the answer is yes, absolutely. If your orange is too wet to even paint around it, just move to the other side of the butterfly and let that dry. Because basically it's just this process of making sure things are dry before you touch it, and we're just going to be filling in the orange the same way that we did the first time, and the black. So just do whatever way you need to so it doesn't get too muddy.
No one likes a muddy butterfly.
We have I could turn this other one on and see. Let me turn this camera link on and see what it sounds like.
Okay, because then maybe they'll hear. Because these people are funny up here.
We tried.
I think we just think we're
I
funny.
was gonna say, that's probably
That's probably more accurate, yeah.
I think we're hilarious.
No, it didn't work.
So, shameless plug for you doing pet portraits. My wife has continually asked me if I would talk to you about pet portraits. So
Your wife wants a
Taryn,
pet
You
portrait?
heard it right here.
Taryn, he's asking me.
Nala and Basil. need
I
a
do.
portrait.
Oh, is that your dog's name? Nala and Basil?
Yeah.
Cute.
If anybody needs pet portraits, it's you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
real.
serious.
Yeah, I actually, I think I mostly do dogs. I mean, it really just depends on what pets people have. I had a goat once. That was really fun, actually. But yeah, the most common ones are dogs, and then I've done cats and bunnies and a goat and donkeys. One time I did donkeys.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
That's pretty rad.
And so if you're wondering what I'm doing here with like the animals, I do the same exact method for my pet portraits. I do a line drawing similar to this where I highlight the darks and the lights, and then I just go for it. Maybe one day we'll do a dog on here.
You should do one of our dogs and then have Taryn come paint it with you.
Yes!
Oh my gosh.
That would be the greatest.
That's a great idea. Send me pictures of your dog.
I would
Just
score
go
big,
to,
Sarah.
just
That's
go
all
to
I'm
Taryn's
saying.
Instagram.
Yeah,
They're all
go to.
over.
So they told me just to go to his wife's Instagram to see all the photos of their dogs. Wouldn't it be so cool if it got to the point where it was like, you're visiting this town, send me a picture of your animal, we'll paint it. You can be on the show.
Yes.
That'd be rad.
That's the life I want to live, you know?
That's what I thought.
My kid's on your wife's Instagram right now too.
It's true.
Child.
Yeah, but kids aren't as cool as dogs. I'm just
know.
kidding.
I don't have any dogs, so I just have to.
Chad Ross said, hello, my dogs are the cutest dogs of all dogs.
Yeah, I agree, babe.
Taryn says her dogs are the cutest. Does anybody disagree with her? Let's get some photos of dogs up. Let's vote. Let's have a poll. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think
knows
anybody
not
in
to
this
disagree
room
with
is going to disagree with you.
Taryn's she loves her dogs.
She loves her
And then
dogs.
Vicky Allenson, her profile picture is her dog.
Oh, Vicky's profile picture is of her dog.
Of her dog.
Oh, Vicky, I gotta see that.
She might fight for it.
She's gonna throw down, Taryn.
Yeah. Taryn, you got some competition.
on.
I have a dog.
He said, look at my profile. He's the cutest.
Look at my profile. He's the cutest. I'm going to when
He is
we're done
cute.
here. What kind of dog is it?
Me, or is it for...
What is it? Casey, can you see what kind of dog it is?
I am no veterinarian, so we will see what.
He's not a vet, so he can't tell me.
It's a little white dog.
It's white?
It's a little white dog.
White dogs are actually my absolute favorite to
It's a
paint.
Maltese.
Maltese.
Thank you.
Cute.
That's,
I have like a mutt. His name is Harvey Danger.
He's so sweet.
He's a good little dog, but I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm not gonna sit here and say that he's the most handsome fella. I'm just not gonna do that.
He's got a little bum foot.
He broke his foot, so it's like
So cute.
weirdly angled because it was so small we couldn't do surgery on it, so it just healed weird. And you know,
Poor little dude.
he actually went on a walkabout for a couple weeks, so he has a broken tooth that his lip gets caught on all the time. He's had a rough life. Well, let me tell you what happened. We went to school one day, we accidentally left the door open and he was missing, and we were walking around our neighbors to try and find him, and our neighbor said that somebody hit him with their car and he died. And so we thought he was dead and we're heartbroken. We don't know what happened to this guy who supposedly hit our dog and killed him, but I guess he was walking around asking it who the owner was. And then seriously, 2 weeks later, my husband's sister saw a post on Facebook that said, "We found this dog. It came up to our yard. Does anybody know who it is?" And it was our dog.
What?
Yes.
Back from the dead.
But seriously, 2 weeks later, we went and
That's
grabbed him.
freaky.
I think he was like 10 miles away from our house. I don't know, something crazy, but he just like survived out there in the wilderness. And yeah, so that's why he's lived a pretty interesting life. He's getting old now, but
Just wonder who the dirtbag is that lied and said he got hit by a
I know, like, isn't that weird that somebody said that he was hit? Maybe he really was hit by a car and he just like went unconscious.
he died.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so the black part of my butterfly is good on my right. If you want, I think I'm gonna do one more section over here of black, and then I'll come back and do the fill in the oranges. Because I'm not an organized painter. I don't like to do all one thing and then do all one thing again. If you're that way, that's totally fine. If you wanna do all the black first and then the orange, that's okay. There's no wrong way to paint this. I just like to like mix it up. I don't know why. And then these lines here are just really thin lines. Wait, should I check in with people?
Want to do some checking?
Yeah, let's do some check-ups.
Let's do some check-ins. Let's see how people are doing. And I seriously painted my arm, so let me
I got my hand.
clean that off here because I like straight up just marked my arm. There we go. Okay, that was bothering me. Okay. Let's start over here with Suzanne. Yeah, this looks great. This orange is really nice, and I think the golden brown is nice because then it kind of like bleeds into the black. You know what I mean? It's a nicer transition, but it's looking really good. And I would say you don't need to really change anything because you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
That's looking good. Good job. Here.
Whole picture in the middle, the other picture.
Yeah. So here's that. Okay, here's Chad's. This is nice. And you can see here, because he did the water first and then the black in it, right?
Yeah.
That's why he has such a strong black here. That is so beautiful. If you do just the, sorry, there's like this weird bug. So if you're using just paint straight out of the bottle and not adding water to it, it's gonna be great. But if you do this method where you do water first and then drop in the black, it's going to do this really strong black color that's gorgeous. This is really nice from the red to the orange to the brown, beautiful work.
I got a little water line in there.
If you have a water line and you don't like that, then you can just take a clean brush and smear it out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be smearing.
Okay. And when we go back to it, I can show you how to do it too if you're not sure, but.
Okay.
Okay, and Missy's doing that same thing. You can tell that she's putting in the water first, then dropping in the black because we have a strong black lines. Her thighs, her thin lines.
Sweet, Sarah.
Sorry about that. Her thin lines
Got real.
are, sorry, I'm probably blushing. It's a good thing you can't see me. She has beautiful thin lines right here. That's really nice. And then on this area too, because that's really what's going to elevate our painting is butterfly wings are really delicate. So these thin lines are important to get in this area. So gorgeous. Good job.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Casey. Okay. So we're just going to keep on trucking. I'm going to do my blacks. So when it comes to painting this one is not particularly like totally difficult, right? Because it's just that the actual drawing itself is where it takes a lot of time because there's so many sections. But after you get the sections, we're basically just doing a strong dark wash for the black and then just a color change for the pockets of color. And the cool thing about this is you can go back and use the same outline and just switch up the colors. We actually already had, I wish I could remember their name, but she saw the prompt and got excited and did one in orange, and then her next one she did in like a pink, and it was so beautiful. So yeah, if you want to try different colors, I think this would also be gorgeous with like a blue or a blue-green. So if you want to do this one again after, or maybe you're doing it now with another color, which is really cool. But you can use it for multiple projects.
It is kind of intimidating. It looks intense. But
It does look intimidating, but once you like break it down, it's not. It's similar to the Monstera, I feel, where this one actually might be a little bit easier than the Monstera because we're not having to worry too much about the highlights and the shading, but we'll do that a little bit on the body, but for the most part, it's not too bad.
You guys did last week, right?
Yeah, the Monstera was last week's project where we did that big, beautiful tropical leaf. And if you're on our mailing list, usually the day of our live paintings, I email everybody to remind them that it's tonight. And then I like to include pictures that people have posted of their work, so you can see what everybody has done, so it's really fun. Just like that. Okay, I'm gonna go back and do my orange. On this because, you know, I'm just ready for some color. So I'm going to start with my amber, and my black is pretty dry, so I feel comfortable painting. Now, the only thing you have to be careful of when you are going back and adding orange to the black part is if you don't want to smear the black into it. So you just want to try and stay within that section. It's not that, it's just something to be aware of. So don't like go crazy with your brush. Don't think of it as like, this black can still lift off. So don't just think that it's like permanent black marker that you can just like take your brush and you're basically just coloring across like kids' coloring book. No, that black will still move. So just try and stay within this section. You might have a little bit of bleeding, but that's okay. Mine bled a little. And on the reference photo, you can see there are areas where it started to bleed when they touched. But I like that effect with watercolor, so it didn't bother me too much. So if it's happening to you, don't stress. As long as it's not taking over the orange, then you're good. And then I'm going to try and lift out some of this black that's smeared on this side, and then let that dry and go over it with color. And then another way that you can kind of make this more yours is maybe there's like an aspect to a color that you like more. So let's say that you really like the reddish orange color and not so much the yellow color, then you could do your sections mostly that, mostly the amber yellow and not so much the watered orange, if that makes any sense.
I feel like it's like elementary school where you use like a yellow marker after a black marker and you're afraid you're gonna like
Yeah, the yellow marker
smear
after the black.
like ruin
And then
it.
like black is forever on the yellow marker and it's forever ruined.
It's like stressing me out a little bit. It's okay.
Don't stress,
It's
don't
not
stress.
working. It's just
But I like to teach you guys both ways of how you do it because you might find one, like maybe you like the idea of laying the orange down first, because now that we're doing it both ways, right? Because the first way we laid the orange down and then black around it, and this way we did the black first. And I actually like doing black first and then filling it in, but you might be the opposite, so just do whatever feels right to you.
Do what feels good.
Do what feels good. I just heard myself. I wish I could sing.
same. I wish I could too.
Have you guys been watching those videos go around of American Idol?
Oh, I love that. I watched it.
Oh, I thought you meant like you wish you could sing like right now. I was like, what's stopping you?
I don't want to sing
I
right
see
now.
what you're
I mean,
saying.
I
your
like
show.
singing. I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do that to you. I like build this whole show to make you guys listen to me sing. That's the real thing here.
So
No.
what do I do if the black starts to bleed a little bit?
If the black starts to bleed a little bit, Casey, do you have a way to get the small camera to look at this?
Yes,
So they can see?
Jake will need to switch to it. Should you switch to it?
Crazy how black.
Is it switched? Well,
and now.
now? Okay. So her black is bleeding into a little bit. She wants to know what to do. A little bit. She wants to know what to do. You just take your clean brush and you lift off the black. And just try and lift it off as much as you can. And then when it totally dries, you can go back in and strengthen that black line up, right? Because right now I'm kind of messing with the black line that you have here because I'm lifting it up. When it's all done, you can just go back in and redo the black line over it. Mm-hmm. So then it's a strong. So you just kind of lift off what you can.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. And I actually, in my motherhood book, I did a Monarch painting in that one because it was this really beautiful poem about butterflies in a clove field. I wish I could remember it right now, but
That's cool.
so that's the first time I did a little monarch butterfly. And there are those pictures too of like the monarch migration where there's like thousands of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Wouldn't that be so insane to see?
It's on my bucket list.
I would
I'd
die.
probably cry.
Yeah.
I would
I mean,
for
how
sure.
could you not cry when you see something like that?
I would
100%.
totally tear up.
I cry watching the
I would
video.
not judge you. Would not judge you.
No judgment here if you're crying about butterflies.
Oh, wait, I need to.
I actually went to because you know how some zoos has like, I'm trying to remember what zoo, I think it was a Sacramento, or they have like a butterfly like
yeah.
place. What is that called? Habitat, exhibit, where you like go into like this really hot area where all the butterflies live, and there's so many. And
I think they have that in Omaha's.
Do they?
Yeah.
Omaha's has that.
Yeah,
It's
we have
so
one.
beautiful. Sometimes they just land on you, and you're like, you've chosen me.
Yeah. It's like the greatest.
It is the greatest. It just makes
They've
you feel like,
chosen me.
yeah, it's like they've seen something in me.
That reminded me of Toy Story. The claw.
Oh yeah, the claw in Toy Story.
I was thinking of Lilo and Stitch where the mosquitoes are landing on it.
Oh yeah, Lilo and Stitch. They've chosen me as their perch.
The last time I went into one of those butterfly habitats, my kids were super little, and I thought they would love it and think it was so magical, and then they all freaked out and started screaming.
Your kids didn't like going in
They
there?
were terrified.
They were terrified of the butterflies?
Yes.
Oh.
So sad. They were freaking out. It was a long time ago, but like
I feel bad for laughing at that, but
I know. I thought it was gonna be this like amazing
Magical
thing.
moment, and then you're like, kids, look at these butterflies, and they're like, what is
And then I
it?
like couldn't get out fast enough. It was the worst.
We're after us.
They thought they were attacking them or
What have
something.
you done, Mom?
Yeah, it was pretty great.
That is so funny.
I'm just grateful I knew your kids at that age, so now I have a mental picture of it. Oh,
It was good.
Man, my black is bleeding a lot on this one.
Yeah, mine is too.
I'm just gonna leave that. If it bleeds a lot, I'm just gonna go with it, and then I'll go back in and redo that line. I think what's happening is I'm just using a lot of paint. And when you use a strong paint, what?
Maybe want to take a water break. Maybe someone can dry a little bit.
Yeah, we could take a water break, and then that way we can let things dry. Okay? Okay. Water break, guys.
Water break, take a break for the water.
I know, I'm like, eh.
What are you looking for that name?
Too much bleeding.
Don't stress, because like, look at this.
Do you wanna?
There's like a
You
ton
took
of
an
bleeding.
oath, Suzanne.
That's true.
You took it
See,
out.
I'm
took
comparing
an oath.
myself to
Yeah,
this,
do you
and
wanna
it's
put that
making me
in?
feel better.
Yeah.
So,
Look at that pretty butterfly. It's real good.
Look at the reference photo. Remember, don't stress about it.
How putting that water down first and then putting the black on top, literally how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah, the black, the water first. It took me so long to figure that out because I would be painting these pet portraits and I'd be like, okay, I'm just using straight paint. Like, why is this still gray?
Yeah.
Because that's just how it dries. But when you put water to it, it's just like, I don't know why it works that way. I don't know. It's what I
I
found.
wonder if it's because it allows the pigment to dry on top rather than get saturated
Sucked in.
into the.
Probably.
I don't know. That's the only
Makes
thing I can
sense.
think.
It's like magic.
yep.
Yeah, but it
sort of
really,
science.
it really helps a lot when you,
Are there paper towels?
yeah, there's paper towels, sorry.
You
Oh,
really
dear.
have to do that. But it's
My
very
job.
kind of you. It's my job. You're doing terrific.
Killing it.
Okay, I'm actually gonna get another paper towel for me because mine's pretty,
What's the water boy's name?
yeah, here, here you go.
Yep.
You Bobby Boucher.
Oh, Baba Boucher.
Okay, the other thing that you're just gonna have to be aware of when we go to rub these off, because we're using heavy black with this, so we're not gonna do it yet, but you just have to be careful because we're rubbing the stuff off. So you might have to use multiple fingers if one of them gets too black. We'll get there when we get there, but just a heads up. And if it rubs off and it smears black underneath, don't stress because we have our bleed proof white. Okay? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do the body actually really quick. And so this one, I kind of do more the technique that I've done in other paintings where these outlines that I have here, I do those in the black here, so like kind of in the middle, like that. And then when those kind of dry a little bit, I'm just gonna take clean water and smear those out. I'm not gonna do it right now because if I did that, then I would lose the black parts. I'm gonna let that dry for a bit, and then I'm gonna smear that out. So it's kind of a gray, as you can see here. And that's just because I wanted to differentiate between the butterfly and the body. But if this body is too light for you and you want it as dark as the black, go for it. Do whatever you need to do to make it feel good to you. And did anybody have any questions before we keep going? Because we just came back from a little bit of a break. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. I'm actually going to do orange, even though I just loaded my brush with black. I'm going to fill these spaces here over here because they're just like bothering me. And these smaller spaces, because they're so small, it might be hard to get that amber to orange to yellow. So don't stress about that. I just try and do them kind of different colors. So some of them are going to be the amber. Some of them are just going to be like the light orange, which kind of looks more like a yellow. Just kind of drop it in wherever. There's no rhyme or reason to which ones are lighter or darker. I just kind of did it willy-nilly.
And how long have you been in Hamilton?
You're already starting to say willy-nilly.
Picking up the lingo. Now if she says fixin' too, we got a problem.
Is that what people say in Hamilton? Fixin'
Well, it's
too?
fixin' to go to the store.
Fixin' to go to the store. I'm going to remember that.
Or when somebody says, oh, were you going to do that? Well, I was fixin' to.
I was fixing to do that.
I'm not sure what it means.
No,
After
no.
a long time.
Okay, and then on this part that it bled black, I'm just going to go over it again with my orange to try and cover up some of that gray. I'm not going to be able to cover it up completely because this is watercolor and it's transparent, but I can at least put a little bit more color in that area.
Ah, that was a lot more water than I wanted.
And then I'm just going to show you guys really quick because there might be some areas like this area right here. I like it, but I want to lift out this color right here. So I just take my brush and just have clean water and I just lift up a little bit. So it is a little bit more transparent. So it's a little bit more smooth because it got a little too muddy in the middle for me. So I'm just going to lift that up. And you just keep going round and round. Oh, I didn't check to see if it was dry. I think it's good.
So tell us about the store. What all is going to be in the store? What is your goals with it?
So for our store, what we really want it to be is, which basically is the goal of this company, is sometimes art stores and art in general is really overwhelming. You don't really know where to start. You don't really know what supplies to get. You're interested in these things, but you're not sure which way to go, what's the best way to start. So that's really why we decided to start this, is we just want to make it easier for people to pick up a brush and we want to simplify things for them. So that's why we don't carry a ton of different brands. We don't carry all of these things. I've just learned what I have loved and liked, and then I'm just sharing that information with you to make it easier for you. And so that's essentially what our store is going to be based off of too, is you're not going to, like, it's not going to be like a Michael's or, you know, other art stores where you walk in and it's just rows and rows of supplies and you're like, I don't know what I want. So we're just going to kind of simplify it. We're not going to have as much products, and then we're going to have workspaces in there and tables and stuff, so you can just sit and paint for a bit and you can try these things out and that's kind of our idea with the store. So it's like half art store and half workspace store, because we really just want to get people to just take a minute and play.
That's awesome.
So it's gonna be so fun, and we're working on it right now.
My sister was telling me, Sarah, that she read an article. I should get it. Like, we should post or something. But adults actually like need that creativity time. Because you know how as kids you're like coloring in school and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's good.
Casey was just saying that his sister read an article about how adults need that creative time, which I think is true, right? Because when you're kids, like I know for my kids, I give them coloring books or papers and crayons like every day just to scribble, just to play with, right? And we don't really do that as adults anymore, and we miss that creative outlet that kids have access to. And so we just want to make it easier and get people to like want to paint and want to do these things, because if we can just help you, it's not as scary. And then, maybe eventually you're like, I feel good, trying these different things, and I can kind of go off on my own, and I can make my own style and all of these things. We just want to help you get there, because I think a lot of people are creative and have talent, and they just don't know it because they've never tried.
Well, I think a lot of people too think it's going to take more time than it really does. I mean, here you could sit down for an hour and a half and come up with a really beautiful painting, whereas you might get the impression that you got to do it for 6 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't take that long to complete something from start to finish this way.
Yeah, Chad was just, I don't know how much they can hear from that, so I'm just gonna repeat, but he was just saying how sometimes we look at something and we think like, I just don't have the time to sit and do that. But with help, and I think that with making things easier, this is once a week that we do. It's an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and you're able to complete these projects, and you just feel good because you accomplish these things. And it's just, trying to get people to make them. I mean, Casey, our intern, we had him do the whale painting because we wanted to see if this worked, right? So he never really painted before. And this poor guy, we set him up with the computer and all the supplies. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch you, but you can't ask me any questions because I got to make sure that the information I'm giving to you during the class is enough. And he was such a trooper, because how awkward is it to just have someone sit and watch you paint? But he did a really good job, and his whale turned out awesome. And when he took it home, his wife didn't believe that he painted it. And so it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to sit down, and you can do it. It's just putting in, the 1 or 2 hours a week to just try. Okay, so mine's bleeding a little bit more on this side, but I'm letting that go because I promised to do that, and it actually doesn't really bother me. So let it go, you guys. If it's bothering you too much, if you have found that it's easier, if it, on my orange side where I did the orange first and then the black, that side is not bleeding as much. So if you like that idea, then do that. Maybe you have to do another one because you've already filled in all of your black. But that's also kind of why it's good to try 2 ways at the same time and build it, because you'll find that maybe some way is better and easier for you. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do my orange first on this side here. Now we're all in the zone.
I don't think people realize how much creativity can be a stress reliever too.
Yeah.
Just to sit down and make something, whether you care how it turns out or not, just do it.
Yeah.
And you'll feel better.
Yeah, just making anything, it just releases a lot of things that are built up. And sometimes like, and don't feel like every time you sit down to paint, it has to be a masterpiece, because it doesn't. There are times where I literally just sit down and I take my brush and I just doodle. I just draw words. I just play with the colors. I do a bunch of warm-ups. And like when I first started doing that, I was kind of bummed because like I didn't have a lot of time. I have 2 kids. I was going to school. I was working, like, and I felt that like every time I actually took the time to paint, I had to come away with something that I could be like, look at this thing I made. But it was actually really important to me as an artist to help me feel more comfortable with my supplies, and then to realize that like not every single time you paint it has to be this wonderful thing, because sometimes it's just fun to play. I mean, have you ever like colored with your kids and you're just actually having a really good time coloring stuff in? It's like that same idea where it's just like, it's kind of just fun to play with colors and shapes and things. And we don't take enough time to do that. Okay. And then I'm just going to lift a little bit of color up again on this side, because it was feeling too one note to me. It was like a same color orange all the way down. And I want to switch that up, so I'm just going to just use a clean brush, lift up some color, wipe. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my body because it's dried pretty good. And I'm just going to get a little bit of paint on my brush, so it's like a wash. And then I just fill in the body. I'm going to leave the eyes white. This part here is the eyes. So I'm going around the eyes, because we'll go back and do that. And then I'm just going to do the body here, fill that in. Now, your lines are going to smear a little bit, the ones that we initially laid down, but we're going to go back again and define those lines a little bit more. So don't worry if you're losing their shape a little bit. And actually, I'm going to do my little antennas. So this is the part where it's probably you want to try and get it the thinnest as you can. So, and I'm going to move my brush, my paper, to get it at an angle. So I'm barely touching my brush onto my paper, and that's how I get that really thin line. And then I'm going to swing it around the other way. There we go. What?
I think he was singing the cha-cha song.
He said reverse.
Oh, reverse, reverse. Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that song in forever.
Bop it, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Over a song.
That's from a song.
Is it?
Yeah, the song where you all like stand in line and do the same thing. Yeah, 3 hops this time. Slide to the left.
Hands on your knees.
Yeah. That just reminds me of a church dances, actually.
Yeah. One of my friends thought it was called the Cuban shuffle, not the Cupid shuffle.
The Cuban shuffle.
And I was like,
No, it's Cupid.
no.
Okay. So this, my orange is pretty wet on that side too. I think I'm going to go in and kind of just go over my black lines on this area and strengthen them, because that place is dry. Tell me if my head's in the way in the overhand. Okay. Sometimes when I do those little tutorials, I notice that my head is like on top of the painting.
It's hard not to do that.
Yeah. Okay. And now I have that song stuck in my head. Everybody clap your hands. Some people are watching this and are like, what are you talking about?
Well, when you said let it go, I had Frozen stuck in my head for a minute.
I blame that on my kids. Let it go will ever remind me of Frozen.
I'm going to take a moment and feel proud for not knowing the reference that you guys are referring to.
You feel proud you don't know what we're talking about?
You really don't?
You've never heard that song?
What?
Maybe that should be like our song when we're when we
Which
start.
song?
Cha-cha slide.
The
Okay, I
cha-cha.
can handle that one. Not Let It Go.
You're like, how
It's a good song, but no.
The cha-cha slide?
I just can't believe you haven't heard it.
If we played it for you, you'd be like,
You would know
I don't know. I've only heard it at like,
They play it at like sporting events and
Yeah.
stuff.
oh, do they?
And every wedding in the history of weddings.
Of all weddings.
Oh, they played at weddings?
Yeah.
I have been going to the wrong weddings. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think it's a wedding song.
No, like, not for like the couple.
And here they come.
And here
I wanna
they
be friends with
come.
the couple that does that for
Everybody
their
clap
first
your
day.
hands. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and do the black on my left side. And then we're good to rub off. So if you're not there yet,
Yeah,
Pick up-
we're nowhere near close.
Pick up-
Oh, look at you and Susie Q.
yes,
There, man. Freaking
she's ready to go.
Yeah. I am
Stressing
a
out.
slow painter.
That's okay. That's okay. But, you know, just like try and paint faster. No, I'm just kidding.
Get
I
it
just
together,
go
Shay.
for it.
Just like,
Just go for it and hope it works out. That's my.
Just don't know how to move any
my
faster.
technique.
I feel like I'm going fast.
yeah, let's recheck in with everybody here. Okay, so Suzanne's doing great here. She has her blacks, they're nice and dark. I would maybe even go and do another layer over here because you see how it kind of got a little bit gray
Yeah.
in this area and this area. So if you want to just go back and strengthen that. And then your oranges are looking good. If you want to get rid of that water line, you can just take a clean brush and kind of just go back and forth and smear that out. And then maybe go over,
Redo the black there.
yeah, redo the blacks in this area. Because I just redid my line work in that area too, because when it bleeds out, you lose the black off that line. So if you just have to go back in and do another layer, that's not a big deal. But it's looking really great.
Thank you.
And don't forget to fill that in just with the wash. Okay. I'll let you get on the other side of Chad here. All right, you gotta stop for like a second. He's like, I refuse. Okay, your blacks are phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I'm still working the rest of it, you know.
Yeah,
I
no.
just-
Yeah, no, that's looking really great. I think this color change from this red to orange to yellow is beautiful. That's really gorgeous.
on
And
that, if you would.
yeah, if you can zoom.
Show it off.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
Camera.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Wow. That's just a wow. So, yeah, this is really nice. Your blacks are so dark that you don't have to go back in any of the areas. So just keep, just keep going.
Keep chugging along.
Just keep chugging along. You're doing great.
keep cha-cha-ing along.
Yeah. Cha-cha slide.
I literally live back to make that.
Okay, Missy here. This is beautiful. I love the color change here. Like even that watercolor texture here where as it dries, it starts to like, you get those really beautiful lines. I think that's gorgeous. Your black is so dark. You guys are doing such a good job on that. I'm really impressed. And yeah, your lines are still really thin. If they start to bleed and you start to lose them, just go back when it's dry and do another thin line. But so far they've kept their shape.
Awesome.
So looks good.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna vocalize this now. I like the black at the end.
Okay, you like the
Same.
black at the end.
Even
Same.
even when it's dry. I mean, I'm going
Yeah.
back to the very first black I did. It's still bleeding pretty heavily.
Yeah, and that's just because it's such strong pigment.
Yeah.
So for me, I liked doing the Okay, let me
It
tell
gives it
you.
kind of a cool texture.
Let me tell you why, okay? I liked doing the black first and then putting the orange in because I liked that it bled in some areas a little bit, because for me that felt more like it was the same unit. Does that make sense? Because in nature, you know, it was on the same plane because there are those imperfections. Now when I did my orange first, my lines kept way better and I didn't have those strong, like it didn't bleed, so I kept my strong lines. But it felt so sectioned off to me that it felt almost a little bit too clean and it didn't feel a little true to nature. Does that make sense? But
Yeah,
if you like those really clean lines, which is totally understandable, then you'll probably like doing the orange first and then the black on top of it. So it's just a matter of style preference. It's just what, you know, whatever you like. And then also probably, because maybe you guys don't paint as often, when you see things bleed out, you might be like, oh, that's a mistake, that's a mistake, that's a mess up. But I feel like in watercolor, those things are not mess ups really. And those are the things that you need to embrace. And that's how, you know what I mean? You're a little bit more harder on those kind of things because
fair.
you think that it might be wrong, but it's not wrong. It's right.
It's
So right.
It just feels right. Okay. Oh, that bled a lot. So my orange here bled a lot on this side that I was not expecting. So that is so much that it might be hard to take out. So I think what I might do is I'm just gonna switch the length. So I'm gonna lift it up a little bit, let that dry. And then I might just change the, change where it ends. So I might have it end right where it started to bleed instead of down here, which is okay to do. You can switch your paintings up like that to make it go. Like last week when we were painting the Monstera, I went outside the lines. Dang, that part is just so wet. And so I just made my leaf a little bit bigger in that area, so I didn't have a big line jutting out. You can tell I'm concentrating when I'm not talking.
Trying to decide if I'm making this black darker, if I'm just like making it lighter.
If it's too wet, yeah, you gotta let it dry. If your black is too wet and you're trying to make it darker, you have to let it dry before you can do another layer. Okay. Then I'm going to do the fill in this white space over here. That's actually part of the butterfly. That's the orange pocket.
We're really feeling some concentration.
Yeah.
We are focused. I feel like there's an area where we talked a lot and now we're like, let's get this done. Okay.
All right, which one do we need? We need the
Amber?
Amber, yeah.
Amber's
this
here.
one, the amber one. Yeah, hook me up, Amber. Oh, look at that. I knew you were thinking it.
I love it. Couldn't find it.
He was ready. Okay, so on this butterfly here, this section, so what I'm gonna do with this one, so this one bled a lot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna turn this into 2 different sections. So I'm gonna make the bottom of this like a dot, and then have this top one end here. Just like that. And now that looks like it was on purpose. Bam. And then when that dries, I'll go in and put a little bit more yellow in there.
It's hard with the black already on there because I want to get it wet and like smear
Yeah.
it, but then I'm afraid to like.
Yeah, with the
It's
black
too
already
much.
on there, you have to be a little bit more careful on using the water and spreading it around.
I was worried about the bleeding, but it's growing on me.
Yeah, isn't it kind of a nice
Yeah,
touch?
I have to agree.
Embrace the imperfection.
Embrace the imperfections and let things go, because while you're painting and it first bleeds, you're like, no. But then like, as you kind of look at it all together, it's like, oh, that's actually kind of nice that it has that.
I didn't really notice that much.
Yeah, and you really can't notice it unless you're like staring at your painting.
Oh, I'm gonna do that.
Oh, you're gonna stare at that? Oh, I'm gonna stare at
I'm
mine.
gonna go home and be like, that's wrong.
That's wrong.
That's wrong.
That's exactly what you're not supposed to do.
That's what I do with everything in my life.
So I'm just going in some of these spaces. So Casey, if you want to look here, this yellow here is looking like a little too light, a little like anemic. So I'm going in and I'm just going to drop in some color.
No water, just straight color.
Well, I'm putting color in first, and then I'm going to use water to spread it out. And then you have a brighter area. Just like that. Okay. Okay. Now, if you guys have not painted in the body of your butterfly, you got to stop what you're doing. You got to do that. Sorry.
How do we do it? I missed the whole thing.
Okay, so to paint in your butterfly, you're just going to get a light black wash on your brush, and you're just going to go over the whole thing, except for these eyes right here that are at the top.
Okay.
These are eyeballs.
I've got those blocked off, so that's all cool though, right? I can
That's
go
fine. You
over
can
it
just
that way.
rub that off, and then because those we're going to fill in black with a little bit of a white glare.
There's a lot of yellow. Does it matter?
It doesn't matter because it's black. Yeah, just fill that in, and then when that dries, we'll go back in and do a little bit of detail work, which is why I want you guys to do this now so it's dry when we go back in.
That's why you're the teacher.
That's why I'm the teacher.
If you insist, we will do it. Oh, I just went over the eyeball.
That's okay. Just try and leave some area white. If not, it's not a huge deal because we have our bleed proof white where we can do a highlight. So don't stress. But it's good practice to try and,
So just like that, basically?
yep,
All right.
Yeah, how's that?
perfect.
Okay.
Yep, that's good. That's good.
I'm afraid if I mess with it, I'm gonna ruin it. So.
And the thing with those lines is you don't want to go back and forth way too much because then that will eventually get rid of those dark lines that you first put down to begin with. It's okay if they kind of disappeared, but we still want to see where they are a little bit for when we do our detailing. And then I'm going to go in, and you're going to see with watercolor, there's going to be some white spaces in between some areas. So I'm just going to kind of go in and try and fill those little tiny white spaces that somehow got missed while we were painting.
We're lost in our work. That sounded weird.
I take it back.
Yeah. shouldn't come anymore.
I was afraid I was going to come and make dumb comments, so. Say
None
what
of
you
your
want,
comments
Chad.
are dumb.
You should have known.
I
was
appreciate
here.
everybody's comments.
I should have.
So I'm going to do another layer on my left wing because in this area you can see it just did not stay dark because I want it kind of like that. So just do another layer if that happens to yours.
Somebody asked if we protected the eyes with the glue stuff.
I did not protect my eyes with the glue stuff, but you can if you're really worried. I just knew not to fill in those areas, so I just kind of went around them. But if you did protect them with the glue stuff, that's not a big deal. When we go to do the eyes, you'll just rub off that masking fluid and then paint. It's looking good, you guys. Oh, Misty's almost done. Dang, she almost caught up to you, Suzanne. What have you been doing? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Funny comments.
I'm just trying to think of really funny things to say.
Jody said we did 4 dots on the body. Are 2 of those eyes? So maybe if you.
Yeah, let me go over. If you actually want to come close with the camera, Casey, I'll go over which parts are the eyes and which parts are white dots. So there's 6 dots total on the head of the butterfly. So I'm going to put them side by side here. Can we get both of them in? Yeah. So these 4 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, are the areas that are just white. If you go over to this side, you can see those are just white. And then the 2 on the very top, on the outside, those are the eyeballs. So those are the areas that we're going to color in black. And these 4 dots that are underneath are going to just be white. And I know that you might have just had to look at the reference photo to understand. But if you order the kits that we have, because we started doing kits for our project, so it just comes with the supplies you need. Wait, which one? This one. It just comes with little bottles of all the supplies, and it comes with a step-by-step sheet, and then also it comes with a reference photo, a 5x7 reference photo. So then that way you actually have something, the actual finished product to look at while you're painting. So we started offering those like a week ago. And if you did buy one and you're painting with one tonight, please tell me how you feel about it, what we can do to make it better, or just overall, because it's kind of a new idea when we want to make sure it's a good experience. So just let us know your thoughts.
If they might have messed up like the eyes and the dots, what's the best way to fix that?
If they messed up the eyes and the dots,
Maybe like painted over it or something.
if you painted over the eyes, don't worry about it because we're just doing a black and a white. So what we would do is you would just cover the eyeballs just pure black and let that dry, and then do a little white glare on top. I'll show you how to do that. But for now, if you kind of just painted over the eyeballs, just paint them like a dark black, and then you'll be fine.
It's hard to blend these sometimes.
Okay. I would just work on the black
Okay.
now, because we're getting to the end part here.
The end is in sight.
The end is in sight. We want to make sure, if you try and get your black on first, if you can, because we still have to rub off the masking fluid. I always forget the name of this, like seriously every time. Actually, when I was doing the video tutorial for this, the 5-minute where I do the voiceover, I seriously forgot the name of this for like 10 seconds. And I just sat there going, and then I had to like cut that out in editing because it was kind of ridiculous. But anyways, the masking fluid we still have to rub off, so we want to make sure our black is totally dry when we do that. So if your black is not down on the paper, get it down on the paper so it will be dry by the time we rub it off.
So I'm slacking.
So Chad, Misty, no, I'm just kidding.
Get it
Suzanne,
together.
all of you guys, come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought this was a no pressure
Coffee
environment.
break? Coffee break? Anybody?
Coffee.
But sometimes it's good to be pressured to paint fast because you have to make quick decisions then, and you're a little bit easier on yourself because you're just trying to get it down. But that's probably one thing I learned a lot in all of my art classes is they're like, okay, you have 5 minutes to paint this person. And you're like, oh, okay. But it just helps you because you kind of make those decisions quicker and you know what to be looking for and how to like create basic shapes quickly.
I just start crying.
I mean, tears have been shed. It's fine. Hopefully no tears during this project, though.
Well, let's make art and cry.
Let's make art and cry. Cry tears of happiness with how good we're doing.
Of joy.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. And I'm ready to do the detail work on my body, but I'm going to wait just a minute so you guys don't miss it.
We're just 40 minutes behind. No big deal.
We're not that far behind. I'm just going to kind of take out some watermark lines
Now
here.
I did the opposite and I bled the orange out to the black.
Oh, that's
a good problem.
Don't stress about that one because you can always go back over with the black. That one don't worry about too much because the nice thing with black is it will cover the orange. And I'm going to see if I can lift a little bit of color out of these so they're a little bit more vibrant on the edge here. So they'll stand out a little bit more against my black. So I'm going to get that wet and then just take my paper towel and pick that up. And then I'm going to put in some yellow. Okay, are you guys' bodies dry?
No idea.
Touch it. Touch it. Okay, if they're dry, we're just going to go over the detail work really quick.
Almost.
If yours isn't dry yet, just take a look. So for the detail work for this butterfly, we keep it really simple, but the bodies of butterflies are actually kind of little furry. So we kind of want that like furry, hairy texture. So I just take, you can use your 2. I'm going to use my 4 because that's just what I'm holding. And then I'm just going to do just like thin lines that come to a V on the first 2. And then these ones, I'm just doing like brush strokes across. Multiple brush strokes here. And just some like thin lines going, kind of like its hair. And I just do a few of those. I don't do that across the whole body, but just kind of do those little hairy brush strokes. Just like that. So it gives the illusion of hair.
You might ask if people can still see us during Zoom.
Can you guys see us? Because we might be having issues.
On Facebook.
On Facebook. YouTube, you're good to go.
Yeah, my lab's working.
Are people seeing us?
Let me see.
Tears.
No, I cannot do like.
Tears? Uh-oh.
You said yep. I can see us.
Oh, good. Good. glad you can see us. Yeah, good idea. Yep, that's good, Suzanne.
How are you doing hairs?
So it's just, yeah, it's just thin brush strokes, multiples
Black?
with black.
Okay. Just ready for that, I think.
I'm concentrating too hard on it. So if I just like wing it, it looks good.
So yeah, so
Wing
what
it,
you want to
pun
do,
intended.
so when you do these brush strokes, let me use, I'm going to wait a second to see if we can get a close-up over here. Okay, so when you do the brush strokes here, so these are nice and thin, which is really great, but what's happening is they're kind of all the same size, and when they get uniform like that, then we kind of lose the shape of what we're trying to create. So we just want to keep it, so let's say this is my butterfly body, and these are the main lines that I initially put down. When I do the hairy brush strokes, I just kind of want to go around the lines a little bit. So kind of in sections, just like that. And you can switch it up in lengths, but if we do this the whole way, we're going to kind of lose what we're trying to, because this will read more as texture to us. Because when you look at things, and it's the same thing when you're like trying to paint a tree, is you want to paint all the individual leaves, but that's not really how you see a tree. It's actually more shadow and light. So we're just kind of highlighting some hairs. So right now we're doing the shadows, and then we're going to go back in with our bleed proof and do highlight hairs on top.
Oh, gotcha.
And so that's going to help us with our shape. So yeah, just try and keep it around those main lines and kind of switch up, kind of like that. Just do that around the main line. Okay. Okay. But don't stress about that. You can just leave that there and then just do that from now on underneath.
I got a hairy bugger.
That's good. Hairy.
More like that.
Yep. Yep, that's good. Oh, so my mom came into town the other week, and she just said, she's like, I just want to let you know, I'm so happy that you don't have my hands, because I have such hairy man hands. And I was just like, Mom, I do have your hands. And she's like, no, you don't. And I like made her hold them up, and we held them side by side, and they were the exact, I know that I have. And I was just like, they were the exact same shape and everything. And I'm like, I have your hands.
You're like, thank you.
She's like, well, you can't tell when you're watching the videos. I'm like, no, I got your hairy, square hands. It was so funny. It was pretty funny because she's like, your hands are so beautiful. I'm like, they're literally the same exact hands that you have.
I have my mom's hands too.
Yeah.
The wide knuckles and the...
Yeah, I just have short fingers. My sister got the pretty long, skinny fingers. I did not get that. Okay, I'm gonna do the eyeballs right now. So for the eyeballs, what we're doing, if you put the glue over them, try and rub that off really quick so that they're white now to paint with.
How you did this for.
And what you're gonna do, so around the eyeball, I'm gonna do the whole thing black except one little area near the top right or top left of the circle, depending on the eyeball. I'm gonna leave a white spot because that's gonna be the glare off the eyeball. So I'm gonna color this in black here, and then I go around and see how there's still that like little white spot. That's what we wanna keep, because then that shows that there's light reflecting off of that spherical shape, just like that. So I do the circles and I leave a little white space. If you accidentally fill in the entire eye black, then you can just take your bleed proof white and just do a little tiny swoop of white on the outside of the...
centers in by the gray, the white in by.
Yeah, so the white area is going to be on the outside. So if you're on the right eyeball, it's going to be on that right outside. And if you're on
I
the
wanted to see the body strokes again.
body strokes again, yeah. Okay.
And they were also wondering about a reference photo.
So the reference, if you can buy the reference photo separately
Like download it.
or download it.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Well, we used to include it in the, I would include a reference photo in the emails that go out weekly. So I will, but I didn't think anybody was using that. So I'll just do that again. So if you are signed up for our emails, then whenever I send out the emails the day of the painting, I'll include a photo for you that you can print off yourself. If you guys are interested in having your own 5x7 reference photo, then just let us know. I'm sure we can figure out a way that we could slip that in your order. So it's not a big deal. Yeah, I'll do the body strokes again, and I'm just going to do it on this guy and my paper here. So I'm just going around the areas that I've already kind of marked out. And for the strokes, they're just really like thin lines like that. Now I'm kind of blowing this up for you guys to see. But they're more like swoops, like swooshes, like like that. And then I'm going to do that again underneath. So don't be afraid to let it, it's okay if it's a little bit loose, if it's kind of imperfect. We want them to be different lengths. And then when I go down to the bottom, it's just that same thing, swoosh, swoosh. And the reason why we're switching the direction of the strokes is because we want to make it clear that this is a big kind of hairy clump, right? And this one is more like less hairy, more close to the body. And we kind of want to pronounce, because when you do this kind of rounded shape, it shows that the body is curved, where if we just did straight strokes across, like that, this shows that the body is rounded, where this one does not. This is going to flatten our body. So when we do the brush strokes around the body, the bottom part, we want to make sure that they are curved. Because then we understand visually, oh, that body is rounded. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm ready to rub mine off, and if you're not, that's okay. So basically, you kind of just go in and you rub, and then you'll see it comes off. Just like that. Now, I don't like to get this, so when this rubs off, you're gonna have paint that's gonna be coming off. I don't like to smear across to make sure. I just take my paper and I kind of just drop it like that. So I'm just going across here. If yours is too wet, it's going to smear. So try and make sure that it's really dry and that your hands aren't wet. If your hands are wet, that will also make the paint smear. So I'm going to do this side since I did that one first. And if you do your first finger and it turns black because it's kind of wet, then just move. It's like you can see already that my finger's black, even though nothing's wet, it's just strong pigment. So I'm just going to switch to the next finger. Okay, and then I'm going to block that off and just keep going around until I get all my white marks off. I think I did some up here too. And I'm going to wait to do my body since I just did the eyeballs and I don't want to smear those off. How are yours coming off?
Good.
Great. Yeah, isn't that kind of fun? This is my favorite part.
It's like when you spread rubber cement on stuff and then
Yeah.
take it off.
So this is especially fun when you're doing like designs or something. So if you guys bought this, make sure to play around with it because it's actually a lot of fun and you can do some really cool things.
Smudge mine. Just a little bit.
Oh, just a little, yeah. And then I'm going to try and go around my eye without smearing it. Just like that. So here's all my marks. Because if you take your hand and try and wipe it off, then anywhere on your painting could be wet and you would just smear the whole thing, which is such a heartbreaking thing, and I've done it before, so don't make the mistakes that I made. Yeah, if you have long fingernails, use those babies to scratch those off. I don't. As I've talked about, I have square, short fingers, so I like to keep my nails short. And yeah. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in with the highlight.
Did you say go ahead and take these ones off too?
Yeah, I took the ones off my body off, if you can.
Okay.
I just worked around my eyeballs. So.
I don't think my eyeballs are dark enough because they're not wet.
Okay, I'm gonna scoop some of this white onto your tray. Here's some white for you guys. Okay. And I'm taking the white out of the jar because if I put my paintbrush in this, it would probably color it. So unless you have clean water and a clean brush, don't put your brush directly into the jar. Okay, so I'm just gonna take my 2 and take my white paint, and I'm just gonna do the ridges on the outside. They're basically just dashes that are gonna go around all of the bottoms of the wings. So I just start on one side and I just do thin dashes. So try and keep your strokes light and soft pressure, and just like that. And you're just gonna do that on the other side. Okay, and then do the same thing over here. Now, this is also a good time to, if any of your dots kind of got muddy or lost, or like for me, all of these dots are basically the same size. And just to add variation, I'm gonna just put some smaller dots kind of randomly in between there. And the same thing up here. Now you don't have to do this. I just like to, I like to change things up. I like it when they're different sizes going on, so. Just like that. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of a highlight on my body. So it's those same body strokes, those same like hair strokes, which are just thin strokes. And I'm just gonna do a couple in each section. Just like that. So I'm actually gonna take my white and fill out that space a little. Okay. Yep, that looks great.
I'm intimidated by the body again.
Don't be intimidated. So you're just gonna do those really thin lines. Just do like 1 or 2. And if you want to practice, like feel free to like practice, you can do that first. If you're nervous about those little hair strokes, you can just do a couple first. I don't stress about those too much because they're really just a finishing touch to show that light is reflecting. It just gives our body a little extra dimension. So yeah, whenever you're ready, just do the thin, do a couple here.
Kind of follow the...
Follow the same shape that you already laid down, which is kind of that V. Yep. Perfect. Very nice. Now just do it on the body. It's the same thing, but going across instead of into that V. Yep.
Is it inverse?
What? Yep, and then in that section, was it upside down?
Whoops. Yep.
There we go. Yeah, and then just at the bottom. That's it. Very nice. See, that wasn't that scary.
I didn't die. That's gonna be my theme.
I didn't die.
When you Let's Make Art, I didn't die.
That is a good, you know what, we should make pins. When you leave, you get a sticker.
My painting didn't suck.
My painting looked great, and I lived.
All right, we're pushing.
Okay. All right, you guys, wherever you are, we're gonna hold it up.
I'm right here.
Because we gotta say goodbye. Okay?
Boom. It's gonna look so sick.
Boom. Okay. Here's everybody's. Man, these look so good.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ferris Bueller, anybody? Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, boom.
Okay, so hopefully yours is done. If not, you absolutely can finish this up whenever you have time. Are you guys ready to see next week's project?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, which camera am I looking at? This one. Okay, next week, we're going to do a sky. Clouds.
That's awesome.
This is going to be fun, and it's going to be a challenge for me to teach because there are some things I feel super comfortable doing. Plants, flowers, animals, insects, all of those. Clouds and skies, not so much. But I figured if you guys are putting yourselves out there, so should I. And so I'm branching out. I'm doing clouds, and it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll release the tutorial for this tomorrow, the little quick 5-minute. And if you paint it along with us, please share your work. I absolutely love it when you post it on Facebook. Wait, which one? This one. When you post it on Facebook or Instagram, you can email it to us if you have any questions or you want critiques. You can email it to me at sarah@letsmakeart.com. If you do post your work, I know that some people post it in the Facebook comments during this, which is great. We can see that. And then also on Instagram, you can tag us in your photo. You can hashtag it, hashtag Monarch Butterfly, or hashtag Let's Make Art. And I just look through those hashtags. And but the best way for me to see it is if you just tag Let's Go Make Art tag our Instagram account in the photo, and then it notifies me, so I can see it right there. So please share your work. Please put yourself out there. And if you did do the kits, please let us know how they worked for you. We're going to have a kit for this one. And just to give you guys a heads up, this project is super water heavy. So try and get Arch's watercolor paper because it's a thicker paper. It can take more water than the Canson. So try and get something like that or similar to it for this project, or else your paper is going to kind of buckle with the Canson. So this is on Arches. Have it ready and some painter's tape, and we'll see you guys next week. Woo! Good job, guys.